Hi Jam and Tag, hope you're all doing really well. Today's story is all about a caterpillar called Claudia. Except really, it's about a story from the Bible and a man called Nicodemus. And we read about Nicodemus in John chapter 3 and verses 1 to 16. So there was a man called Nicodemus, and he'd seen all the amazing things that Jesus had been doing, and he'd been hearing all the wonderful things that Jesus had been saying. Nicodemus thought, now that's the life for me. So he went to see Jesus to find out how he could have this as part of his life, how he could share in this life that Jesus talked about. Jesus said to Nicodemus, Nicodemus, you need to be born again. Now, Nicodemus didn't really understand what Jesus was talking about. And I think the reason Nicodemus didn't know what Jesus was talking about was because he didn't know a story about a caterpillar. I think it might have helped Nicodemus to know about the story that we're going to talk about today. So, have a watch of the story, Claudia the Caterpillar.
Claudia the caterpillar lived in the garden. She spent her days crawling on the plants and eating the flowers. One day, Claudia saw butterflies flying and gliding, winging and wheeling across the sky. Now that's the life for me, said Claudia. So Claudia climbed up the big old tree. She stood on the highest branch. It's the butterfly life for me, said Claudia. I'm going to fly. The next day, Claudia watched the butterflies flying and gliding, winging and wheeling across the sky. Yes, that's the life for me, she said. I would love to be flying and gliding, winging. Wings! I need wings! So Claudia made some wings. She climbed to the top of the big old tree, stretched out her wings and yelled, It's the butterfly life for me! I'm going to fly! The next day, Claudia watched the butterflies flying and gliding, winging and wheeling across the sky. She decided to ask God about what she wanted. God, I want to fly like the butterflies. God led Claudia up the big old tree and under the highest branch. He attached her to the branch and began forming a chrysalis around her like a shell. Hey, cried Claudia, I want to fly. If you close me up in here, I'll die. But God kept covering Claudia until she was completely closed up in the chrysalis. Claudia stayed in the chrysalis all day and all night and all the next day, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, wrapped up in the chrysalis. Then the chrysalis shook. Out popped Claudia, good old Claudia, wonderful new Claudia. She flexed and flapped and flew. This is the life, cried Claudia as she went flying and gliding, winging and wheeling across the sky.
So I hope you enjoyed that story. Have a think about what happened to Claudia so that she could live the life that she wanted to live. How did she live life to the full? You could say that Claudia was born again. Let me tell you a bit more about the story of Nicodemus, the man who didn't know what it meant to be born again. After Jesus died on the cross, it was Nicodemus who came and carefully wrapped Jesus' body and put on the spices that he needed for burial. And then he placed Jesus' body in the tomb. Then 3 days later, Jesus came alive again, didn't he, and burst out of that tomb, almost like being born again. I think that this is when Nicodemus started to understand what it meant to be born again. If Nicodemus was going to live a full life like he wanted to, he needed to trust God and share in the new life of Jesus who died and rose again. And this new life from God is not just for Claudia the caterpillar or even for Nicodemus, the man in the Bible. It's for each and every one of us who wants to live life to the full. Each one of us, if we love and trust Jesus and if we believe in his death and resurrection when he died, went to that tomb and then rose again. We can all be born again, and that's how we live our life to the full in Jesus. I hope that all makes sense. I hope Claudia's helped you to understand that, and also Nicodemus. And next week we're going to be having an all-age worship service at church, so it'll be similar to Duke Street Junction, but all the church family is invited. So it'll be at 10:30 at church, so get your parents to book in. If you want to come along, book in. We'd love to see you there, as many as possible. And then after that, on the 27th of June, the Sunday after, we'll be starting our children's groups again on a Sunday morning, and our youth groups. So if you want to be part of that, again, book in, come along. We would love to see the whole church family back together again. See you soon. Bye.